Hey everybody, have you considered starting a podcast? We here at Screwball highly recommend Podbean for getting your podcast out to a larger audience. Podbean has given us the ability to easily bring you Screwball each and every week on all of your favorite podcast services. Use the link podbean.com/screwball to sign up and save up to 35% annually. You can also use the link podbean.com/pro/screwball to sign up for a business subscription. Happy podcasting. Hey everybody, welcome back to Screwball, a baseball podcast, your home for everything baseball. I'm your host, Mike Lepre, here with my co-host, Frank White.
Hey, how's it going?
This is episode 72 of Screwball, and it is the week before the trade deadline, and we got a lot of rumors and acquisitions and other trade deadline related things coming up, which is a really exciting time of the year for baseball. You got a lot of new faces and new places. You got a lot of change of scenery, and you got, a lot of just general excitement around the game around this time of year. And we love it. I know fans love it. I know that I'm sure there's players that like it too because they get an opportunity at a new winning location. So before we go into our usual news roundup, I think with such a hot topic, why don't we just go right into it? And we are just going to discuss the trade deadline and specifically what a new location, new locale, and new look can do for a player. So with that, I'll let Frank kind of take over here, and he's also got we've got some trades to kind of go over here and some rumors as well to kind of analyze and go over.
Yeah, so the main thing, the first thing I should say that we want to talk about is the idea of change of scenery. Could it really help somebody that much? And we've seen in the past where a guy goes to a new team and all of a sudden he turns into the superstar or the player he was supposed to be, or becomes a better player than he was. But that's just the idea of changing the scenery, getting to a new team, or is there something else? I think the idea of actually leaving a franchise and going to a different franchise could actually play a big part in these. We've seen that with Arrieta leaving the Orioles and then going to the Cubs. JD Martinez bouncing around and going to Detroit and even becoming good in Detroit and then going to Arizona and Boston. So just leaving could have an impact just because if you're a higher prospect and now you got all eyes on you, you start fizzling out. You're still getting looked at like that. You get traded away, you lose all that. Now you're just one of the guys again. But also a big thing is getting new coaches, new players, new teammates. They help you out as well. But the coaches really could see something different that maybe the other coaches didn't, or a new philosophy. One team might be a analytic, fly ball team. One might just be like, hey, go hit the ball. The change of scenery could definitely help, but also we got to remember, the coaches and the stadium and the opponents and a bunch of other things that are going to play big parts in this as well. And the lineups that are surrounding them. And to start that off, we really go with, to our first trade, we've seen a bigger trade. We've seen Adam Frazier to the Padres for 3 players. This is great. Adam Frazier, NL starter this year. Great player, leading the major leagues in hits, 125 hits as of yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a great hitter. He plays infield, plays outfield. But he's a guy who went from a 60-loss team to a 60-win team.
Mm.
So what can that do? And a team that has not much offensive help from the Pirates into a team that's loaded. So he's already batting over 300. What's he going to do with the Padres?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a good trade. I think he only going to continue to play as good as he is, if not better.
Agreed.
And if he struggles a little bit, it'll be masked by the rest of the lineup. So he has should be no pressure on him.
That's a good point.
Next trade we've seen Rich Hill to the Mets. Rich Hill's been around for 1,000 years now. Mets needed starting pitching badly, so they got a guy that fills the back of the rotation and could fill in the bullpen late in the year too.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a good small trade for the Mets. Rich Hill knows how to pitch. So It's just a guy who's going to eat some innings and help out of the bullpen late in the year.
And did pretty good in his debut with the Mets.
Yeah. And the next big trade we've seen was Nelson Cruz to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Twins, obviously, he's needed to trade him because his contract was up after this year, so there was nothing holding him there. They traded him, get a little help back, a little minor league guys back. Tampa Bay needed someone who was going to smash the ball, a DH type, and they got that, Nelson Cruz. Again, it's hard to say that change of scenery is going to help these guys because they were playing well before, but also they're veterans.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not much you're going to change with these guys at this point. But Nelson Cruz to Tampa Bay is going to be a big move for them because he's the kind of hitter they need right in the middle of the lineup. Mash home runs, a veteran, been around the block, knows how to win for big franchises, knows how to play for small franchises. Been on bad teams, been on good teams. Went to the World Series with the Rangers and deep in the playoffs with the Rangers many a times. Orioles in the playoffs. I mean, he's been around a long time. Twins in good fights in the playoffs. So He's definitely going to help Tampa Bay try getting back to the playoffs and get deep into the playoffs. Some other rumors we've seen: the Mets kicking the tires on Max Scherzer, as well as some other teams. We've seen Seattle very interested in Whit Merrifield since they're still in the hunt. We've seen Trevor Story and the Yankees linked for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of Jose Ramirez possibly being on the trade block, that would be a big building block or block to fall in the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Brad Hand and Daniel Hudson from the Nationals could change teams. They're big relievers. Obviously, relievers are always hard to get or wanted at the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Jose Barrios, another big name guy, younger player. Byron Buxton just turned down an extension, so the Twins could probably look to send him away at this point and get prospects back. Alex Cobb, Mangione, with the Angels still kind of fluttering, but those are pitchers who are, their contracts are coming up, so you might as well trade them and get something back for them. Padres are not done with the Adam Frazier deal at all either, so we got to look out for that. They're going to be in the market for probably some of these guys. So on Marte, even Ketel Marte, when he comes back, they're going to be in trade talks. So on Marte to the Yankees, we've seen. Joey Gallo in trade talks, also in talks with an extension, so he can go either way. And Craig Kimbrell, we've seen him in talks for the Astros and the Red Sox, should say. So there's just these are a lot of the big names that we've seen. These are the guys mostly in the rumor mill right now. There's other guys, but these are the biggest names in the rumor mill right now who could obviously swing a whole season or 2 seasons.
Yeah,
for a team.
There's a lot of good guys there that could really, that are, some of them are big free agents at the end of the year. Like you said, some of them have teams will have them for another 2 or 3 years or something. You could really see a whole landscape change, even a division, especially like a division like the NL East. If some wheeling and dealing goes on over there, that could really shake up things. As far as the trades we saw, I think the Adam Frazier deal is awesome. Wherever Adam Frazier went, I thought was a good pickup, unless he went, to like the Orioles or something, someone that didn't make sense. But now you take a guy that's on the lowly Pirates, and now he's all of a sudden dead nuts in the middle of a wild card and division run. So I think that's as when you talk about the change of scenery, I think that just the winning environment, change of scenery, is going to make a difference for him. Same thing with Nelson Cruz, a guy that's no stranger to winning teams. And now he went from a team that was, for them, an unfortunate season because they were kind of expected to be really good. Now he's in a winning environment, and really a different environment. The Rays team is probably a different environment than a lot of baseball. A's, Rays, teams like that are kind of the underdog always. So that might benefit him. I mean, you saw him, I think he hit a home run in his first game or 2. Rich Hill kind of even ground, maybe even a little bit technically when you look at the record, maybe a little bit of a degradation or a downgrade, in where he went. But the Mets are also, I believe, the division leaders, so he's gonna help with a division run and a playoff push. So I don't know if the change of scenery for him at 41 years old is going to make much of a difference in what he does, but I think the Adam Frazier thing might be the most significant now that he's finally on a team that's really pushing for a good division, a divisional push and a wild card push. So I think you might see the most change of scenery, quote unquote, affects Adam Frazier.
Adam Frazier's a great player, and that's a great move for the Padres because he's just a great pure hitter all the way around.
Yeah, I love him.
And he's a plus defender wherever you put him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be a great move. Other than that, it has been a relatively slow deadline. The rumor mill has kind of been the same. We kind of seen the same names to the same places. There hasn't been, a ton going on. But the rumors, I think there's a lot of rumors kind of behind the scenes this year, which is a little different. And I think it's still a lot of teams don't know if they should trade these guys who have multiple years left, like Jose Ramirez or Jose Barrios. Guys that they're still kind of on the fence about trading them away. But the rumor mill has kind of been stagnant for a little while now, but that's going to all change. By the time that we even post this episode, there's probably going to be 10 trades.
Oh yeah,
impactful trades that go off. So it's expect the craziness all at once instead of a kind of a leading up to it, which is usually what we see. This year, that it's going to all happen all at once. Mm-hmm. Once someone pulls the plug on one, 6 others are going to go. Yeah. And Adam Frazier was the start.
Yep.
So a lot of teams are going to be like, well, he's out. Let's go get second baseman here. And they're going to start pulling the plug, and things are going to go crazy at that point.
Yeah, once the calls start getting made, and, you might even see some smaller trades affect larger trades. You see some guys make roster moves in order to open a roster spot for a trade, or you see
clear
guys...
money.
Yeah, you see guys, like you said, clear money. You like to see guys, they get a smaller player that ends up going somewhere else in a trade. You've seen that before. So there's 3-team deals that could always happen. So there's a lot to watch. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of rumors. And it's always around this time of year, people like to fantasize about like the crazy trades. You like to see the big names in the rumor talks, but you got to look at who are the teams realistically that really should be selling, and then go from there. Like the Cubs said, they're sellers right there, so you could really make some really good moves out of that. Diamondbacks have some pieces; they're really bad. So you got to be kind of realistic with your thinking, but there's a lot of good names out there on the block. So there could be some teams that really get shaken up.
Yeah, and then there's some good teams too that are kind of been muddling, but are still going to try buying. And one include the Cardinals. They're still going to buy because that team's built not just for this year. They're built for the next few years. I wouldn't be surprised to see them go get Scherzer to help this year, but also to be there for the next couple of years. You get, if the Cardinals got Scherzer, I mean, that'd be unbelievable. Jack Flaherty comes back, which is almost like an acquisition in itself, and then you get Scherzer, and now your rotation's gonna be headed by Flaherty and Scherzer for the next 2 years, 3 years. I mean, that's exactly what you want.
That'd be for that team, hell yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you can see the Cardinals maybe sneak in that race. You can see the Cardinals go in for Trevor Story because Paul DeJong's been struggling, and use Paul DeJong as a more of a utility pinch hit guy. And you get Trevor Story, and then try signing him back, and they reunite Arenado and Trevor Story, which has been offense surprisingly been lacking for the Cardinals, but a lot of injuries. You see a lot of teams who could just that are muddling, but could also make big moves. I mean, the Braves could technically get rid of Freeman.
Yeah.
They're not. I don't. At this point, they're really struggling for a playoff spot, especially with Acuna. They can get rid of Freeman, get some prospects back, save some money, and go nuts. The Yankees could get rid of some guys, but I think most likely they'll buy a little bit more for next year than this year. But you're going to see there's a lot of teams like that. And Cardinals, Yankees, Braves those are 3 teams that are going to be like that.
Yeah, that are maybe thinking, well, we could buy this year and see what happens, and maybe we sneak into the playoffs or something. But if we set ourselves up for next year,
that's the thing.
We're really
it's to buy for this year, but also it's going to buy for next year. The Mariners are one. They're obviously going to try for this year, but they're going to try getting guys who are going to be there next year and the year after because they're really not ready to win yet. Mm-hmm. So that's what they're going to do. Detroit, they're going to buy for this year maybe, but they're also going to buy for next year.
Yep.
So those are the teams that we're going to look for, and that could be a big switch up because those players are usually worth more when they're under contract for more than a year, similar to Adam Frazier.
Yeah, you're going to see bigger prospects go in trades like that, obviously.
Or big money flow.
Yeah, because, it's not like you're just getting this guy and, oh, go ahead, have him. He's yours for 3 years now, For the rental buys, where it's like a Trevor Story, where you get him for 2 months or so, it's a little bit cheaper cost,
Unless you plan on signing him.
Yeah, which, you better make sure that if your long-term plan includes a guy like that and you're trading for him, then the prospect pool that you're getting rid of is worth it. Even though you're paying the big money at the end of the day, the prospect that you'd be giving up, or the 2 or 3 prospects you give up would be worth it. So there's a lot into it. There's a lot of really complicated trades, especially with money deferrals and, players to be named later, and sometimes players to be named later become something, and then trades look completely different in 5 years.
Michael Brantley.
Yeah, so this time of year is always, I love this time of year with the trade deadline. It's like everyone can play their ultimate fantasy, and it's almost like when the year starts, it's like your team almost just has that resurgence. You're like, all right, well, now there's a little bit of excitement. We got this new guy, maybe this new guy can really do it for us. But, which there's been examples of that. There's been examples of guys coming over, even in smaller trades, and they make a big difference in the clubhouse, or they make a big difference in the lineup, and all of a sudden a team changes their mindset. So, it all depends. Every year's different, so different group of guys, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a year where you're going to see one of those guys like, one of those CC type years, where a guy like CC gets traded to the Brewers, and he just carries a team to the playoffs, and he just has one of those historic runs.
Yeah.
The year's shaped up like that because there's not many teams running away with things. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a player come in and get red hot, a good player like Trevor Story or Gallo or something like that, and just carry a team to the playoffs. So this is the type of year.
Yep.
So I wouldn't be surprised, especially a guy like Scherzer went to the Cardinals or something and then just carry that team right to the playoffs. Yeah. And then the Cardinals get the playoffs, and then they go nuts like they usually do and end up in the World Series.
That'd be crazy. That could be a really potential landing spot. Him and Jack Flaherty and Adam Wainwright looking like a good rotation to me, So you never know. You really never know, and we won't know until we come back next episode and we can actually, look at how some of these trades went. But with that, that's kind of our topic, and that was one of my bigger pieces of news was those three trades. So a little bit lighter on the news because that's really dominating all the news anymore around this time of year. So the other big two pieces of news I have, number one, the big piece of news, probably the biggest, is that the Cleveland Guardians are the new team in baseball, replacing the name of the Cleveland Indians. So last week, the Cleveland Indians announced that starting in 2022, they will be referred to as the Cleveland Guardians. New team logos have been shown, accompanied by an introductory video narrated by actor Tom Hanks. The reason for the new name Guardians is, quote, the 43-foot statues have stood on the Hope Memorial Bridge for almost 100 years, and you can see Progressive Field in the background while looking at them. The Guardians of Traffic are meant to symbolize the spirit of progress, and that lines up with dropping the name that has been deemed offensive, end quote. Coming from CBS Sports. So the Cleveland Indians are now becoming the Cleveland Guardians. There's obviously been a little hoopla in the news with the Chief Wahoo logo and them changing their names, and you see it across different sports with the Washington football team, formerly the Washington Redskins. So if you're a Cleveland Indians fan, you are now going to be a Cleveland Guardians fan unless you're jumping ship because of the name change. So that's something to look out for and I guess look forward to. If you're an Indians fan, maybe could change a little bit of could change some mojo for you, because I know the Indians are a bit of a World Series drought. So I wouldn't say I'm not a fan of the name. I just think that they could have gone different directions with it. I understand where they went with it, but I think they could have gone a lot of different directions. So I'm a little disappointed. But if maybe I'm not an Indians fan, so maybe there's Indians fans out there that are like, great, this is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they at least have some backstory. The statues leading in. I mean, we went to Cleveland.
Yeah.
That bridge and the stadium, I don't know, 100 feet, 200 feet to the stadium. So it makes sense. And then I'll have to change the back half of the name.
Yeah.
On the scoreboards, let's be honest, money, scoreboards and stuff like that. It's the same. It's true. The logo does look pretty cool, but I just think the Guardians is just such a bland name. We've seen the XFL. New York had the first team, and the name was the New York Guardians. It's just a bland name. I think you could have went other places, and you could have brought the Spiders back, or anything. We talked about it many times, or something with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Something. They could have done something different. They just kind of used a bland name. It's like kind of using a team would have came in and used like the Hawks or something.
Yeah.
Where there's a million of them in high school and college, or Tigers or something. It's just there's millions of them. It's just not unique. So
right.
It's not the worst thing in the world, that's for sure. But you just kind of a little bit more, had a little bit more hope, or a little bit more enthusiasm about like a more creative name.
Yeah, as an outsider looking in and just a general baseball fan, I'm not hugely excited about it, but I'm also not I'm not down on it. I don't think it's like a bad name. I'm like, well, there it is. There's their new name. I mean, it's cool that we're getting a new name. It's kind of nice. Once in a while, there's just this little bit of difference in the leagues if things start to get stagnant. Not that things always have to change, but there's some things that happen. You're like, oh, when the NL Central went from 6 teams to 5 teams, and the Astros went to the West in the AL, it's like, oh, okay, well now we have even divisions. It's like the little things. Again, not that they have to change every year. It's just I like a little bit of shake up here and there. The final piece of news before the wrap up: the 8th no-hitter of the season remains a bit elusive. So last week, 3 teams flirted with the historic 8th no-hitter of the year. The Astros faced a combined no-hitter with 6 outs left against the Rangers, which also would have made the Rangers a part of history because they would have been no-hit 3 times. The Angels' Patrick Sandoval took a no-hitter in the 9th before having it ended. And most recently, yesterday, as of recording this Sunday, the Yankees' Domingo Germán was 6 outs away from no-hitter on Sunday against the Red Sox. Will we see an 8th no-hitter this year?
Yes.
I think so, too. With all these close calls and as many as we've had already, why not? Even a combined no-hitter. What the hell? So that 8th no-hitter still, there's about 2 months left to baseball, 2+, and we're still waiting on it. The wrap-up, number 4, who's doing the best right now? The Giants still own the best record in the league at 62-37, with the Dodgers right behind them in the NL at 61-40. Over in the AL, the Red Sox and Astros are tied for the best record in the league at 61-39, and the Rays are right behind them with the top wild card at 60-40. The Dodgers still own the best run differential in the league at plus 146, and the Diamondbacks own the worst at minus 150.
No kidding.
No shakeups, I don't think at all,
So
from what we talked about last week. So
yeah, some hot teams I got to mention here: the Rays, Tigers, I think it's the
Yeah.
fourth best record since May 8th in all baseball. The Astros and the Cardinals. Cardinals have played pretty well right before the All-Star break and right after. They've been playing pretty well. They can just get healthy. They're a team to look out for sure.
Definitely.
Some cold teams to look at. The Twins have been cold all year. Rangers have lost 10 straight. The Nationals have been bad. The Braves have been muttering. Losing Acuna and some other guys has just really been hard for them, but just can't seem to get going. And the Reds have been real streaky this year with a lot of talent, so they could really make a change in the league if they decide to start trading guys off. So those are some hot and cold teams I have to, from guys to look out for.
Yeah, and this is right around that time where you all of a sudden you start becoming a seller or a buyer, and all of a sudden, are you really in the division? Are you really or in the wild card? There's a lot of decisions to be made around this time. You got to think about it. You say you got 60+ games left, or even close to 60. You're looking at it realistically. You're not going to go 50-10 realistically. So you got to start really thinking about where you're at as far as a team. Well, unless you go just absolutely berserk and have a historic run. But realistically, you got to realistically look at where your team's at and realistically what you could finish with, at what record you could have, even if you're hot at the end of the year with the last 60 games. So there's a lot of inward looking for these teams. You got a team like the Rangers that just lost 10 straight. That's just how it is. They're not good. So they don't have to really be thinking about what they're doing. But
no, you don't really got to look around and see, well, what should we do? Well, I think if you don't know what to do by now, then you don't know what you're doing at all.
yeah. So but there's some teams that are on that borderline that have to make a decision. So let's move on to our who's hot and who's not segment of the show. Move on to our hot and cold players. As always, I like to kind of highlight the players of the week. This week it was Chris Taylor and Kike Hernandez. I don't have Kike Hernandez's stats. I believe he batted 400 over the last week, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's right on the nose. He batted 400. But Chris Taylor, I had him previously already on my notes. He batted he batted 480 in the last week with a 1160 slugging and a 1660 OPS. My number 2 hot player is Dalton Varsho. He batted 474 over the last week with a 1053 slugging and a 1576 OPS. Number 3, Harrison Bader, batted 478 over the last week with an 870 slugging and a 1390 OPS. Brian Reynolds, number 4, he batted 455 over the last week with a 682 slugging and 1160 OPS. And number 5, Freddie Freeman, batted 429 over the last week with a 714 slugging and a 1234 OPS. So a lot of hot guys there. Really only one guy that I have listed on my 5 that's in like a really hyper-competitive team. Harrison Bader is the only other close, because the Braves at this point are kind of questionable at best.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and Freddie Freeman, I think he went 138 pitches between swing and misses.
Some insane stat.
Yeah, he's been going just absolute berserk.
Yeah, he has.
Some other guys I got here on the hot list are Ronald Torreyes, been playing well. Andrew Vaughn.
Yep.
For the White Sox, been playing well, and Andy Ibanez has been playing pretty well. There's a small name no one really ever talks about.
No.
Some pitchers to look out for: Tuki Toussaint for the Braves, pitching well. Domingo Germán and Patrick Sandoval, obviously close no hitters, so they're obviously pitching well. Lynch for the Royals, pitching very well.
Yep.
And Gregory Soto for the Tigers, pitching well. I got to look out for him possibly on the trade deadline.
Yep.
Lefty who throws really hard with a big sinker.
Yeah, a lot of guys to look out for. Some guys with a lot of talent. There's no surprise that the Tigers do have talent. I'm surprised they're playing as well as they are, but they got some young talent. So there's if you're a Detroit fan, there's something to look forward to for sure. But let's move on to the second part, the who's not, the cold players. Number 1 I have is Jared Kelenic, .053 average over the last week with a .053 slugging and a 234 OPS. Just can't find his footing yet in the MLB. Really talented guy, just hasn't, like I said, just hasn't found his footing yet. Number 2, Joey Gallo. After being absolutely red hot going into the All-Star break, he's a bit ice cold here. .056 average with a .056 slugging and a 246 OPS. Number 3, another guy I believe was really, really hot, J.P. Crawford. .080 average over the last week with a .080 slugging and a .195 OPS. Number 4, Cole Calhoun, batted 100 over the last week with a 100 slugging and a 282 OPS. And number 5, Joe Panic, batted 100 over the last week with a 100 slugging and a 200 OPS. So none of that
is good.
None of that good.
Yeah. Some other guys here to mention: Jared Walsh been struggling a little bit. Justin Upton since his return from the IL. Michael Conforto and Willie Adames. Those are some other guys who have been struggling here recently, and some of them have been hot too. Willie Adames, Conforto have been pretty hot, and Walsh have been pretty hot. So they're that's turning a little bit, and they're going more on the cold side.
Yeah.
Some pitchers that have been on the cold side: Brad Hand, Yu Darvish, Kenley Jensen blew 3 saves in a row. He's getting booed in L.A. Patrick Corbin's been cold all year, and Chris Bassett, he's been struggling a little bit here. Not too bad, but still worth mentioning on the cold list here since he's been one of the better pitchers this year. So, other than that, I mean, we're going to some injuries here. Again, it was on one of the better sides of the injury weeks. We had Colin McHugh going the IL. Darren O'Day was officially announced he's going to be out for the year. Luis Arias for the Twins, placed on the IL. Alex Kirilloff for the Twins, out for the year. He's getting surgery. Wow. Max Scherzer was scratched due to day to day. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was something with his arm, shoulder.
I think it was his triceps.
Yeah, I think it was more like, hey, we're not going to push this because we're going to trade you kind of thing. Nick Castellanos was placed on the IL with the wrist fracture or some sort of fracture in his wrist. And Mookie Betts plays in the IL with hip soreness. So, a couple big names there, but nothing crazy. No superstars getting down for the year.
Yeah, Noah Acuna or Trout injury.
Yeah,
like
forever,
we had.
Yeah. And then we have some on the better side. John Means activated. Freddie Galvis soon to be activated. Eloy Jimenez activated today. Will be in the lineup. Luis Robert starting a rehab assignment. So those are some young guys we're excited to see. Trout, they shut down again. He started running lately. They said it's nothing to be alarmed. It's just that he was sore. So they're just not going to push him. So, yeah, he got shut down, but still he is overall progressing.
Right.
Anthony Rendon's still a couple weeks away. Morcana was activated. DeGrom's expected to make a rehab start and be back with the Mets shortly. Joe Ross for the Nationals activated and pitched today. And Brandon Belt to go on a rehab assignment soon. So those are some big names, possibly in trade. Some of them in trade talks, but also going to be in playoff hunts and playoff pictures when they get back.
Yeah, you got to start thinking about even someone like Brandon Belt. You got to start thinking about maybe he's you got to think about him for the playoffs. The way the Giants are playing, it's going to be no surprise if they do even if they start to falter, they might make the wild card. So, which is just absolutely still just mind-boggling to me. But
because some of these teams they're going to get these guys back. It's almost like trading for them. You're almost like trading for if the Angels get Trout back here soon. It's like almost like you traded for Trout.
Yeah.
So that's what these teams got to look at. Like, hey, we're going to get our guy back here, but give or take a little less than half a season, but that's enough time to make a big move. So, the injuries at this time are just as important as a trade deadline.
Agreed, because this is usually like a time of year where, say, someone had a big injury. Like, you see a lot of Tommy John guys start to kind of find their way back around this time of year or the All-Star break. It's like you said, there's a resurgence. They get a second half push almost like they got to trade. So it's big for some of these guys, and it's big for teams.
Yeah. So a guy I didn't even put on my list here, but I've been mentioning him every week. Chris Sale. Another rehab start, went 3 2/3, like 60-something pitches. He's expected to pitch again this Saturday, and he's expected to be stretched out to about 6 innings. So if he went 60 pitches, you're talking about 70 to 80 pitches this next start, which means when he gets activated, you're talking maybe 90 pitches. So we're talking Chris Sale here in the next week or two. And for a guy who's been looking great, a Tommy John guy, but he's been out for so long with Tommy John, I think he's almost like really cleared that Tommy John, maybe got his control back, his velocity's back, and he's going to be a big part for the Red Sox and for the AL playoff picture.
Yeah, for a team like the Red Sox, who's already doing great and really has been killing it in their division, to get someone like him, I mean, it's invaluable.
Yeah. So look out for that. And our last bit here is our trivia question. Obviously, it goes right with the trade deadline. Which player has been traded the most in MLB history? And the record is held by Cameron Maybin, and it's 9 times. His last trade was this year. He was traded from the Cubs to the Mets for $1. When the Mets had all those injuries of the outfielders in a row there, they traded for Cameron Maybin for $1. But that broke the record, and he holds the record for most. Which players traded the most in MLB history? Cameron Maybin 9 times.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I can't believe I didn't read that when that happened, or maybe I just forgot it when I saw it. But
he's a guy who I believe he was a first overall pick. or top 5 overall pick.
Yeah, I know he was drafted high.
For
Yeah,
the Padres actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think he was drafted in 07, I believe it was.
Yeah, it's got to be around there.
07,
It's got to be.
Maybe 04. I don't think he's quite that old. I think it was 07. Maybe it might have been 04. Made his debut in 07. Give or take, it's that time frame. That's really not that long ago. We traded 9 times. Not to say it's 07. That's what, 14 years?
Mm-hmm.
Trade 9 times. It's almost a trade a year.
I know. It's crazy. How do you
for
even
a
settle
first round
down?
pick?
Yeah. Yep.
So it's pretty crazy to think about. And he's been a guy who really has been a solid veteran. Pretty much his whole career.
Oh yeah.
Just a solid outfielder. Maybe a starting center fielder on a team you want some defense, or a great fourth outfielder, or a great veteran guy. So a guy who's actually he's a good ball player and he's well liked.
Yeah, he holds value. For sure. Definitely more than $1. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah. So
that's one of those like cartoonish trades you hear. They trade him for a rosin bag, and
it was Cy Young traded for a suit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I got here.
Yeah, that's a good trivia question. Good episode as far as this is leading up to the trade deadline, because like I said, next time that we record, it will be the trade deadline will be over, and then when the next one goes up, we'll really have some time in between some big trades. So
yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about next episode. Probably be a little longer. We'll dissect each trade and kind of see what happened and where the league stands after it and what the future can hold.
Yeah, hopefully there's some big trades that happen. Hopefully there's enough meat on the bone to be able to talk about, as opposed to some years tend to just be a little disappointing, especially if some of your favorite teams you're expecting to really make a splash and they don't.
Or Pirates ruin their franchise again.
Yeah, they just trade everyone that they have
for nothing.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. The trade deadline's always mysterious and a little surprise. There's always a little surprise in there somewhere. We'll look forward to that. But as far as this episode goes, that's kind of all I got too. So unless you got anything else, we can wrap this thing up.
No, that's it. Just excited. Next week's going to be a huge episode, and we're going to really dissect all these trades that we're expecting to happen here, and see what, like I said, we'll see what the future holds and see what the landscape of the league's going to look like after this trade deadline. It's always exciting. Phone going off 1,000 times, Twitter going nuts. Trades coming in after the deadline is always my favorite. Zach Greinke, one of the biggest trades we've seen in the last couple of years, way after the deadline.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so they just don't follow the rules, or it wasn't reported on. They just kept it a secret. But anyway, it gets crazy. It really does get crazy, and we're gonna see a lot here, I think, especially all at once. That's what this deadline's looking like. It's not gonna be a progressive thing. It's gonna be like deadline up 10 trades.
Yeah. And for a season that's already been kind of topsy-turvy and just things that I just don't expect happen, like, the Mariners are almost looking at a wild card.
Detroit almost 500.
Yeah, for a season that I can't make heads or tails of, I'm sure there's going to be trades I can't make
Twins
heads or tails
in last place.
Yeah.
The Royals were in first for a while. Giants are in first. Arizona lost 98 games in a row.
Yankees and Braves stink.
Colorado has 9 wins on the road, 10 walk-off wins. I mean, we're talking a ruckus.
Things don't make sense.
Yeah.
So,
and our commissioner's still a gapped-tooth idiot.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about him in a while. Maybe he's due for a fuck up in the news.
Yeah, fall down and smash the piece of metal they call the trophy.
Oh yeah, right. But yeah, we'll see what happens to the trade deadline, and we'll come back with the next episode, and we'll, like I said, we'll dissect it and kind of look at each trade, especially if there's a lot of them.
It's gonna be.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but that's kind of the beauty of it sometimes. Just don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So, like I said, with that, that's kind of all I got, unless you got anything to wrap it up on.
Nope, that's it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for listening. You can catch this podcast on Apple Podcasts as well as Google Podcasts and Spotify. You can listen on our regularly updated YouTube channel as well as our website, screwball.podbean.com. You can follow me on Twitter at @RealMikeLepre. You can follow me on Instagram at Mike Lepre.
And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at FDubs10.
You can follow our official Screwball Twitter at ScrewballPod. You can follow our official Screwball Facebook at ScrewballPod, no E in Screw. And that's it from us, guys. We'll see you next week.
Yep, take care.